Hey guys, welcome back to Just Driven. Today's video, we're going to be talking something a little unique. We're going to talk about what if this finale of Fast and Furious, what if it wasn't made for you?
Streets closed, pizza boy. Find another way home.
We're going to get into something that is somewhat of an interesting take on things that are happening behind the scenes. So let's get started. So it all started on the streets of LA. Just two guys, one Supra, one Charger, and a quarter mile that became legend. But now, after 10 films, spin-offs, feuds, and even a trip to space, the Fast and Furious saga isn't ending with a bang. It's being rewritten around a ride. Universal Studios just dropped $100 million on the biggest coaster in the park's history. And guess what? It opens in 2026. The same year the finale of Fast and Furious is supposed to begin filming. And here's the real twist. The original script for the final Fast and Furious movie left out Mia Toretto entirely. This decision didn't sit well with Vin Diesel, who considered walking away from the project altogether. It took a heartfelt conversation between Vin Diesel and director Louis Leterrier, inspired by Vin's own daughter, to ensure that Mia's character was brought back into the fold.
Thank you.
So this behind-the-scenes drama just goes to show how much these characters mean, not just to us fans, but to the cast as well. The original version, it was so bad everyone from Vin to Universal tossed it. So now the clock is ticking, a ride is launching, a story is stalled, and the franchise that meant everything to a generation might just end with marketing instead of meaning. As you guys have probably heard, because it's literally all over the internet, the Universal Studios park in Universal City in Los Angeles has been working on a new ride. And it is a coaster. This particular ride is catered to the Fast and Furious franchise. And I gotta be honest, it looks pretty thrilling. It's pretty freaking exciting. I cannot wait for it to open because I kind of want to be one of the first attendees. So I'm anxious to see where this is going. Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift is set to become Universal Hollywood's fastest roller coaster ever. It features 72-mile-per-hour launches, a 4,100-foot track, and ride vehicles that rotate 360 degrees mid-run. It uses the bodywork of Brian's Skyline, Han's RX-7, Dom's Charger, and of course the orange Supra. But this isn't just a thrill ride, it's a strategic pivot, a long-term bet that the future Fast and Furious is in the park, not just on the screen. And if you're investing that much into a ride, you don't want a movie that feels disconnected. You want synergy, you want alignment, you want your next blockbuster to look like your next attraction. Which is why the lack of a script is so freaking interesting, because Universal now has time to make sure that the ride and the film aren't just related, they're inseparable. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a business model. Movie studios aren't just in the box office game anymore, they're actually in the experience economy. Look around, Disney turns every MCU movie into a toy line and a ride. Warner Brothers built a whole world around Harry Potter. Even Jurassic Park, Jurassic World rebooted its story around real-life park attractions. Universal saw the writing on the wall, and with the Fast and Furious, they saw potential for a new kind of franchise. One where the story isn't just told on the screen, it's experienced in real life and in person. And when the movie isn't written yet, that gives executives unprecedented control. They can literally say, let's see how the ride plays before we finalize the script. That's not movie making, that's unfortunately called cross-platform engineering. Think about it. In the 1930s and 40s, Disney discovered a gold mine beyond just film production. Disney began licensing their beloved characters, turning them into toys, apparel, and countless other products, paving the way for what would become a cornerstone of their business model and their success. So fast forward to today, and we could see Universal Studios taking a page from Disney's playbook. With Fast and Furious franchise amassing a huge global fan base, Universal isn't just stopping at blockbuster films, they're building immersive theme park experiences, launching extensive merchandise lines, and even developing attractions like the up-and-coming Hollywood Drift ride. It's all about extending the brand beyond the screen, creating a world that fans can step into and take home with them, just like Disney did all those decades ago. Guys, how did we get here? It started with cracks in the family. During Fast X, director Justin Lin quit 1 week into filming. When he stepped down as director of Fast X, it left a significant shift in the film's direction. Lin, who had been known for pushing the boundaries with CGI and larger-than-life stunts, was replaced by Louis Leterrier. Interestingly, despite the creative differences, Lin stayed on as a producer. What does that mean? Well, this means he'll still be part of the creative team, even as the studio aims to rein in the budget and shift away from heavy CGI. It's a fascinating dynamic as it shows the balancing act between maintaining the franchise signature spectacle and evolving to meet audience expectations. And just to clarify the difference between what a director and a producer are, a director is primarily responsible for creative vision of the film. They make decisions about how scenes are shot, guide the actors,
Places please, stand by to roll camera.
and work closely with cinematography, production design, and editing teams to bring the story to life. A producer, however, handles the production from a broader perspective. They're involved in funding, managing the budget, hiring key crew members, and ensuring the project stays on schedule. They also assist with marketing and distribution. So while the director is focused on day-to-day creative details, the producer is focusing on the bigger picture to make sure that the entire production runs smoothly. So now fast forward. Universal receives a script for Fast X Part 2, the one that was supposed to wrap up the entire franchise, and they can it. That script is gone. Everyone from cast to executives agreed it absolutely didn't work. So now they're sitting on $1 billion finale with nothing greenlit. Meanwhile, the theme park ride is full steam ahead. And with no script, Universal now has the freedom to design the story around the ride instead of the other way around. If Fast X Part 2 doesn't even start shooting until after the ride launches, that means it'll be influenced by a number of real-world feedback loops that marketing departments watch very closely. Things like guest feedback on ride experience, ride theming responses, social media buzz and trends, merchandise performance, cue lines, reaction, and viral moments. But does that actually mean the movie will be shaped by the ride? Well, here's where it gets tricky. From a production standpoint, it's unlikely the script will be dictated line for line by what guests say about the coaster. But in the modern Hollywood landscape, perception is power. What Universal can glean from early hype and guest interaction is which characters resonate most, what vehicles are fan favorites, and which themes drive engagement online. And that's where things get interesting, because the vehicles featured on the ride aren't random. By the looks of what we've seen on social media, we've got Dom's Black Charger, Brian's Orange Supra, Brian's Blue Skyline, and Han's Mazda RX-7. 3 of those cars are connected to Dom and Brian, but Han's RX-7? That car was destroyed in Tokyo Drift. It was flipped and exploded in a crash caused by Deckard Shaw. That's literally how Han's death was revealed. Now I know that the Blue Skyline blew up in Fast and Furious 4 along with Dominic's gray Chevelle when he hit the cigarette lighter and opened the nitrous tanks, and all 4 of those cars went up in flames. But we saw the Blue Skyline reappear at the end of, I think it was Fast 9. So we can assume it's been rebuilt or replaced. The Treddo Charger has been destroyed and rebuilt more times than we can count. It appeared in nearly every film except Tokyo Drift and I believe Too Fast, Too Furious. So it's not hard to believe it would be back again. But the RX-7, that's a big question mark. If what we're talking about here is how does this ride play into the finale, then we have to ask, what is Han's RX-7 doing on this ride? That raises big questions. Are we rewriting canon for merch synergy? Is Han's RX-7 returning as a tribute or a flashback? Or is Universal simply picking the most visually iconic cars regardless of where they stand in the timeline? If the ride is setting the tone for the finale, and the ride includes Han's RX-7, does that mean the movie might force its way into justifying its return, and even if it makes no sense? That's not storytelling, that's reverse engineering a film to fit a roller coaster. Remember Fast 7? That tear-jerking finale, the final drive with Paul Walker? That was a real goodbye. No exploding helicopters, just 2 brothers taking one last ride. But what came next? Fast 8, Fast 9, Fast X. They weren't about emotion, they were about scale. You had magnets, satellites, submarines, ludicrous in space. And now we're on the verge of something worse. A movie that's written by coaster designers.
Brian, You're messing with my business.
Instead of a final race, we get a final loop. Instead of an arc for Dom, we get a ride for guests. This franchise used to shift gears with purpose. Now it just spins in circles. Vin Diesel always said the ending should honor Paul. He wanted a real goodbye. Not just to Brian, but to the era of Fast and Furious that meant something. To the family, to the roots. But he doesn't hold the pen, unfortunately. Universal does.
You embarrass me!
And right now, with no approved script and a $100 million ride opening first, there's a real chance Vin's dream gets rewritten. This is the moment when legacy is vulnerable, because the longer they wait to write the script, the more they risk losing the soul of the story. Vin may want closure, but the studio may want coaster compatibility. Who really owns Fast and Furious? Not legally, but emotionally. The fans built this with their money, with their loyalty, with their quarter-mile dreams. But now the finale will be determined by park foot traffic, merchandise, tie-ins, themed food sales.
I'll have the tuna.
No crust?
No crust.
A story that began on asphalt and being paved over by boardrooms. And unless someone fights for it, the family won't cross the finish line. It'll stall in the gift shop. Let's put this simply. We don't want a ride. We want a race. We don't want a 4D drifting scene. We want one last 10-second run that means something. We want a send-off for Brian, a heartfelt goodbye for Dom, a story that feels earned. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about respect. If you're going to end Fast and Furious, then end it the right way. The final movie isn't even written. The ride opens in 2026, the film starts filming after that. And what comes next will define the legacy of the franchise forever. So here's our message to the writers, to the producers, to the studio. Don't let this story die in a theme park, please. Don't sell off your legacy for merch and ride photos. Remember what made this saga what it is. It wasn't a boardroom, it wasn't market testing, it wasn't synergy or licensing, it was the fans. It was the fans who kept showing up year after year, who quoted Dom's one-liners in their Instagram captions,
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should.
who turned their first car into a tribute, who used Fast and Furious to get through breakups, deaths, heartbreaks, and new beginnings. Fans who didn't just watch the films, they lived them. They turned ride or die into a mantra. They turned I live my life 1/4 mile at a time into a philosophy. They weren't just buying tickets, they were buying into hope. Please remember how you got here. You can build the merch, you can launch the ride, you can do what Disney did, but do it with heart, because without a story worth remembering, all you'll have is a roller coaster with no emotional track to ride on. This ride, Hollywood Drift, has the potential to be more than just an adrenaline rush. It can be a living library for the fans, a place where a kid sees Dom's Charger and remembers the moment he dreamed of owning his first car, where a father brings his son and says, this was the movie that made me fall in love with cars. You want to build an empire? Start with a story that lasts forever. Make us cry, make us scream, make us whisper the final lines in the theater with goosebumps running up our arms. Give us new one-liners to tattoo onto our memories. Give us something we can feel, something we can quote 10 years from now, tied to our own lives. Make this final scene worthy of the first frame. Because if you want this park to succeed, if you want this franchise to live forever like Disney's did, if you want Fast and Furious to be more than just nostalgia in a gift shop, then the story has to carry the weight. It has to be brilliant. It has to feel like home. End this saga, not just with action, but with truth. And please, give the fans a reason to keep driving with you for years to come. All right, guys, you're probably wondering, the last couple videos I've done like this, why? It's because, look, we know that there's lots of things going on with the studio. We know Vin is extremely busy. We know about the cutbacks. We've talked about it in previous videos. They're cutting the budget nearly in half. We really want to send a message to the studio who really controls all the puppet strings here, and that is, don't forget who made this franchise what it is. It's the fans. These videos, I hope they don't fall on deaf ears. I hope the message gets to the studios and the executives and sends the message of how important the story has to be. Not just street racing, not just the things that we saw in the very first movie, but the things that are important in today's world, car related. the story has to carry its own weight. And that's the purpose of making these videos. It's solely for that purpose only. And I hope you guys like this video. I hope you pass it on to other people, because the more eyes it sees, maybe the message will fall on the right ears. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope you give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you on the next video.